Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. I'm Paul Stevens, editor of Short Term Rentals, and welcome to this webinar on Realtors are uniquely positioned to disrupt the STR space. Discuss, sponsored by Jetstream. This is me, Paul Stevens, the host for today's session. And now, Emmanuel from Jetstream, would you just like to give us an introduction to yourself and your company before we get underway?
Absolutely. Good morning and good afternoon, wherever you are. It's a pleasure to be on this webinar. Thanks for having us, Paul, and I really look forward to diving into this topic. My name is Emmanuel. I'm the CEO of Jetstream, and I live on Vancouver Island, just off of Vancouver, beautiful British Columbia, Canada. So Jetstream, we've built the world's first short-term rental platform that enables brokers, realtors, and agents to market, manage, and monetize their listings. So what does that mean? Well, we're a tech company, so we've built software, which in the vacation rental, short-term rental industry is referred to as a PMS system, property management system. So we built the software, but we don't just sell the software to our users, because that would mean our users would have to learn yet another software and would make their lives more complex. So we sell the software with our humans as a combined package, platform, and solution, which means the humans perform listing creation, optimization. We offer a 24/7 global, multilingual, guest-facing reservation support team. We do all of the pricing optimization and revenue management, and we coordinate cleaners and maintenance personnel. And we do this whole package, platform and humans on top. We offer all of this as a white labeled solution under our partner, brokers, realtors, and agents brand. And there's no fixed costs, no monthly minimums. It's entirely outsourced variable costs. That summarizes Jetstream, Paul.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel, for that introduction. And we'll be hearing lots more from you throughout today's session. So in terms of webinar guidelines for today, please keep your sound on mute and your camera off if you're not speaking. I'm being ably assisted by my colleagues Danny and Joe today. All of the details you can find in the chat, so please do post any questions you have there as well. And a recording will be sent around to everyone after today's session. So let me introduce the rest of our speaker lineup for today, and we're going to start with Jessica, please.
I'm Jess Larsen. I have been a realtor and a real estate agent on Cape Cod in short-term rentals for more than a decade. I started as an agent in my broker's first office on the phones, doing the day-to-day grinding of the short-term rentals. And when it came time to go out on my own about 2 years ago, I found Emmanuel and Jetstream while I was shopping for listing distribution solutions for my business.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Jessica, and delighted to have you on today's session. And last but by no means least, we have Shawn.
Thank you, Paul. Appreciate it. My name is Shawn Hill. I'm the managing partner of August Hill. I work with Emmanuel. I met him a bit ago, saw him on stage at a conference talking about his solution, was really interested, and we've got hooked up. We work together. August Hill helps companies in the prop tech space really scale and grow and learn new markets. My background's a 20-year operator in the prop tech space, most recently partner at a $300 million prop tech fund where we invested in hundreds of companies across prop tech, fintech, and insurtech. And I think I've got a pretty good eye for recognizing great companies. That's why we work together, and really interested to figure out and to help Emmanuel and Jetstream, come into this space, and we could talk a little bit more about that, but really just help him with my knowledge base and create the best platform for the audience here.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Shawn. And again, welcome to all of our panel for today. So to add a little bit of context to today's discussion, Emmanuel previously featured on one of our Rockstars webinars back in April, discussing the new categories of flexible living, in which we covered short-term rentals in the context of flexible living and other asset classes. We have the link to the recording for you in the chat as well now, so I'd thoroughly recommend you check that out. We've also covered a number of Jetstreams partnerships and integrations over the last year, including the likes of Intopia, Enzo Connect, Stripe, Aperto, and Wheelhouse. Also relevant to this discussion is the trend of more investment firms targeting short-term rental inventory. So we have Realtor doing this in Austin, Dallas, Miami, and property management company Avanced also raising $500 million in a PropCo funding round led by asset management firm Saluda Grade back in February. So that's just a couple of things that we've been covering that are slightly related to this topic on short-term rentals. And we're actually also holding a webinar on institutional investment in the STR sector. That's on Tuesday, the 11th of October. So keep an eye out for that. So let's get straight into today's conversation, and we'll turn, of course, to Emmanuel. And Emmanuel, you talk about how Jetstream is, you've built the industry's only short-term rental platform that's designed to enable real estate brokers to market, to manage, to monetize listings. So I think that sets you up nicely for my first question, which is, what do you see at the moment as the state of the real estate market at more of a macro level?
I mean, we've come off of the hottest years, the biggest real estate boom, and the most homes sold ever. And I think everybody sees and reads the same news right now that we're definitely at the beginning of an inflection point, and the data is showing that home sales are slowing. So essentially transaction volume is slowing, and this is caused by a variety of factors, but probably the biggest one is interest rates are rising, which is leading to less transaction. Inflation is absolutely through the roof right now, which means also just the cost of owning a house and operating a home, energy bills and so on is also increasing. So yeah, there's a lot of macro trends happening right now, which we'll discuss, I'm sure, in this webinar, how that's actually tailwinds for the short-term rental industry. But let's just leave it at that. The macro trends are as I've stated before, which is good for us, I think.
And how, based on that, how do you think Jetstream is helping agents and realtors sit at the top of the asset transaction when it comes to capturing new short-term rental inventory coming onto the market, if we're going to focus directly on the question first?
Sure. Well, it's just conversations we have with our early customers that we've had now for a few years in the space. Really, oftentimes we've started working because a great realtor or agent or broker in a destination which is either leisure or where short-term rentals are allowed will often, well, they're involved in many transactions, not just one a year, many transactions a year, and they are most often than not a person of trust for the buyer or the seller. So the new buyer, and this is what's happening with our customers. A new buyer will go, hey, I really like you. I got this great new secondary property for investment. Do you have a good property manager to recommend? This is constant question that our partners get. So this is how this started. Some of the agents went, I'm kind of tired of just being a referral source to my friend, the property manager down the street. What if I just became a property manager or a short-term rental manager and started capitalizing on this? And really, that's where Jetstream evolved into fitting this niche really, really well. And you showed two large prop tech companies raising hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars to acquire real estate, and then run or operate or manage the real estate in a way that's very relevant to our space, but in a way that's a foe to realtors and agents and brokers, because that's capturing inventory, and that's essentially big tech moving in and taking the inventory out of the pool. Whereas Jetstream is really a custom built solution to turn agents, brokers, and realtors into managers and benefit revenue wise, and also customer relationship wise. In customer, I mean the owners behind the realtors. So it's ultimately the original customer of the realtor or broker.
Well, I just one thing that I think it's important at a macro level, your question about macro, and we've got clients across the property management spectrum, across the institutional spectrum, and there's this shift, and the cute saying is Wall Street becoming coming to Main Street, right? And so how do you compete with the firms at out of New York and in London and other places that are now buying institutional. The way it is in the UK, it's been much more institutionalized over the past decades in the US, but we've typically been under 2%. That number has grown to almost 4% based on the data that we've seen. And, some estimates have been to get to double digits in the next, 10 years or so. So we are moving much more to an institutional focused housing market. What that does is now Jessica has to compete with, an institution with billions of dollars buying hundreds or thousands of homes at a time, and that takes inventory off the market. And they're going to hire a firm, and there are many firms that are now concentrated in this space to go manage 5,000. So how does Jessica compete at 5 homes or 15 homes with one of those large institutions? And so not only does it have implications on supply, which has implications on pricing and other things, it also has implications for the realtors out there that are trying to compete in a market. So how do I one, just find the listing, 2, secure the property? And I think this is a way for them to compete and say, you don't have to sell your house at a discount to the cash, to the big guys. You can sell it to me at market price, and I can do the same thing and put money back in your pocket instead of putting it, into a large firm. So I think that macro trend is definitely there, and will continue to get worse, better, worse for the realtors on the phone, and the everyday, people that are trying to purchase homes themselves, competing with those large firms.
Yeah, and seeing as you're here and speaking now, Shawn, I'm really interested in your background as well, because you were early in the team at DocuSign, and we've heard how you've sort of played quite an instrumental role, I believe, in getting DocuSign adopted by the real estate industry as well. So, from your perspective, looking at the overall question of this webinar, what do you think makes agents or realtors uniquely positioned to disrupt this particular space?
Yeah, I got the question all the time. I mean, I joined DocuSign, I think in 2014 or 2015, as like they were starting to get this exponential growth, in the real estate market. And, it's just quite interesting. People just said, like, what was the magic bullet? And I just said, like, people were just tired of getting in the car driving across town. I mean, it used to be when you're a real estate agent, like, go to your bank, get a pre-approval letter before you even get in the car, before you actually got in the car as a real estate agent and drove around, right? That's how it used to be, right? And you met at some parking lot somewhere, you jumped in there, a nice Cadillac or whatever it was, and you drove around and you looked at houses, right? It feels like really antiquated now to think about that, but DocuSign allowed for, and then, the contract, and you couldn't read it, and 18 scribbles and 16 fax machines later, right? So, I mean, part of it was just timing. Part of it was just the demand for digitization, and, all software did, and all DocuSign did, and other, tools in the transaction management space or contract space was just allowed for efficiency, right? And so how do you do, the typical realtor does 7 transactions a year, some do 100. And what's the difference between 100? 7 is the ones that are at 100 have figured out efficiencies of scale, right? And so, yes, there may be a few other people. And so in relating that to this market is, you could probably do 1, 2, 3, and Jessica will tell you better how many you can do, right? But at some point you just hit a capacity, right? Because then you can't go market yourself because you're doing this all the time. And so the same with DocuSign, you can only do so many contracts when there's fax machines and cross-outs and all these other things. But if you can do a contract in 30 seconds instead of 30 days, that allows you to do 10, 15, 20, and that's a difference. So I equate a lot of it to, if the tool isn't available, then you're stuck with what's there. And if before Jetstream got here, there just wasn't a tool available. So having the tool allows for scale just the same way DocuSign allowed for more contracts and more deals. So, I equate those two together, and we'll continue to get more tools in this space. We'll continue to get better, and we'll have agents that are able to do 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, when they could only do 5 by themselves before.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Shawn. And talking backgrounds as well. I mean, Jessica, you've got a hugely diverse background in short-term rentals and the realtor side. So you're, I think, a broker in Cape Cod. You manage rentals on Cape Cod in Massachusetts. You help other realtors and investors in managing who manage their second homes as well. So using all of that, what do you see as the major trends at the moment, micro or macro in the real estate market?
Sure. So I think a lot of us have heard of the great COVID resignation, but if you're not in real estate, you may not have heard of the great COVID migration. And it really impacted us on a micro level. Barnstable County on Cape Cod was the fourth most moved to destination during that shift. And what we've seen in the last few months is everybody get up and go back to work. So we suddenly have all of these empty houses. We have people who have been living here for 2 years relocating, and they're not necessarily at the point where they're ready to let go of that asset because they're not sure if they're going to want to come back, but they are definitely open to doing something with it. And so I started in short-term rentals. I think it's a great business. When I got to Cape Cod, I didn't know anyone. And the work in short-term rentals, if you're doing it old school on the reservation lines, never ends. So it's a great way to meet people. It's a great way to get in houses. It's a great way to carry your business. And I've been really, really lucky to be able to scale, because I honestly had no idea how I was going to distribute my listings when I went out onto my own. I've been managing OTAs, one at a time. You talk about you get 5 listings and that 6th will just make the wheels pop off because nothing flows anymore. So Emmanuel was really the one to help educate me on the tech stack. I mean, as a realtor, I'd never heard of a channel. I was on Airbnb and this wasn't a phrase I knew, which in hindsight is absolutely bananas, right? And what has been really unique for me on Cape Cod is just that suddenly I have these other agents that want to bring me referrals. And I have the opportunity to say, hey, what would it look like if you kept it? What if you kept that listing? The person wants to work with you. Real estate is a relationships-based business. The key is that somebody wants that person to call, they want their agent, they come back to their agent. There's a high factor of loyalty. So it's been really great. We signed our first team agent, and I had started a cleaning company to support my own rentals, and I'm able to anchor that company to her business. So now she can distribute her listings and know that the back end is being taken care of. So her owner's happy, she's happy, I'm happy. It's just been a complete and utter game changer, honestly.
And talking about game changers, I mean, of course, if we're talking about disrupting the short-term rental space, then I guess it's all about relevancy and how realtors and agents can achieve that. How do you think they can achieve that make sure that they're at the top of that pile?
Sure. So I don't want to correct you. I think the word disruption to realtors is really frightening because we associate it with some tech that has come into our market and really taken over in a way that isn't what the realtor was thinking it was going to be. So one of the things I would really like to clarify is that Jetstream is a technology that allows realtors to take listings. It does not take listings from realtors. And I think that is a very hard concept, particularly for agents that might be new to the tech. It's not the same as hiring a property manager to go out and distribute your listings, remaining in control.
Thank you, Jessica. And I mean, I'm not sure if disrupting is the right word to use in this question, Emmanuel. But why do you think brokers or realtors are seeing the short-term rental space now? Is it something that they're noticing now in particular, and why are they wanting to move into or disrupt, or any other word that you want to use?
Yeah, there's so many reasons, honestly, but let's just talk about money as a number one. Brokers, I'm just going to use broker agents and realtors for the continuation of this chat interchangeably, all right? So let's say brokers earn fees on transactions. So it's a transactional fee. It's not a recurring type fee. And that's where they make most of their money. Increasingly, there's a desire from brokers to find ancillary sources of revenue And they're trying all kinds of things in photography, staging, insurance, et cetera, but it's still, the data shows that it's still a very small percentage of their revenue mix. Now, short-term rentals is actually quite lucrative. Done right and efficiently, it's quite lucrative. And it is a recurring revenue source of income. It's not 100% recurring in the sense that it's not the same amount every single month. There is seasonality in the recurring revenue, but it is probably, not probably, it is for a brokerage, it can be, or it is the largest source of recurring revenue income that they can be generated. So that's probably the top reason. Second reason is it's all about touch points with the owners. There's myriads of ways that brokers keep in touch with their buyers and sellers. The average time between transactions in the US is 6 to 8 years. So between that time, they send stickers for the fridge and, you know, flowers at Christmas and all the ways to stay in touch. What better way to stay in touch with an owner than to actually manage their short term and give them money into their bank account every month? It's probably the ultimate. So it's many customer touch points.
I'd say a check's better than a calendar, for sure.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And interestingly enough, is our tech is actually allows, when we deposit money into the brokers, or depending on there's different legislation in different states, we can actually brand what shows up in the bank account as per the broker, if that's allowed. But that depends on the jurisdictions. Anyway, so increased touch points. And I think we just at a macro level, there's a lot of interest in the short-term rental industry. And Shawn was saying, I mean, the money that's now flowing into institutional short-term rental acquisition and management is phenomenal. So it's not just agents and brokers that are all of a sudden going, oh, wait a minute, there's money being made here. It's the institutional world, it's the big money, it's the shift, you know, it's the transition. COVID brought us away from hotels into short-term rentals and vacation rentals, not away from hotels, but there was the largest shift, rapid shift into this new class of alternative, quote unquote, accommodation. All that's mixing.
I know that's a word that can divide opinion a little bit there.
Yes.
But yeah,
I'm sorry, I think it's worth noting that it's a lot of states in the US require a license to manage vacation rentals. And so you see property management companies going out and getting real estate licenses. And on Cape Cod, some of those property management companies even belong to our Association of Realtors. So they're piggybacking on our professional network having a license. So that in and of itself tells you that there's a huge opportunity here that the business is capitalized on, that the agents are just perfectly poised to come up and take.
100%.
Thank you, Jessica. And Emmanuel, in talking about that technology as well, but presumably there's also a crucial human aspect as well within, and Jessica's already referred to it as well, the importance of those relationships. How does that help to drive success in real estate?
Everything. I mean, people are everything, right? It's all about the people. That applies to just business and anything in general. So taking that macro concept and bringing it down to what we're doing here, you know, in many instances, we could actually sign up the homeowners directly with our technology. And sometimes in a wild case, we do because the owners find us on the internet, and what can we do about it? But really our whole business is built around partnering with the best local network experts, which we have found over the last few years to be the realtors, brokers, agents, because they're so highly networked in the community. They're the ones who are sponsoring the ball games and the Rotary Club and so on. We all know that agents are highly networked. And yes, we're seeing it with our customers, is that during the transaction, they form a trust bond with the new buyer who is more than happy to have, they're like, I trust this person. I'm making one of the most significant investments of my life with this person helping me, and I want them to now help me with the management of my asset.
Excellent. And Jessica, sort of piggybacking on that last point as well, but what do you think, Emmanuel makes a great point there about relationships. What is it about, that makes real estate agents relationship builders or the go-to sources when it comes to these transactions, and what is the ultimate benefit of that?
I mean, the ultimate benefit is that this is a world of abundance, and what you put out, you get back. So it's not just relationships with clients, it's relationships with your vendors, it's relationships with other agents, it's relationships with lenders, it's all of those things. And a really good agent is a really great transaction coordinator, and they know how to get the owner their vision of this investment property. And maybe it's a straight investment property, or maybe you've got somebody who is buying an asset that they intend to retire in one day. And so they have this emotional bond to this asset. And so juggling the relationship between the needs of the business and the emotions behind the person who owned the house is really where the realtor shines.
Excellent. Thank you for those insights, Jessica. And Shawn, listening to what Jessica and Emmanuel have said, do you actually, and you've probably come in from a slightly different angle on this as well to other speakers, but do you see any short-term rental platforms about that are purely focused on agents, brokers, etc.?
Yeah, the short answer is no. That's why when Emmanuel and I, when we got together and, he approached me about this, he said, you've been in the business for 20 years, you've seen all the tech stuff. I had never seen anything that was dedicated to this channel. And there are plenty of platforms that are going after the bigger ticket institutionals and REITs and other things because they see the big dollar signs. When you have $1.5 billion, or you showed $500 million, all of that, like people will tend to go to where the money is. And so there are plenty of platforms that have gotten their own funding that are going after that market. But we tend to forget that real estate is a local business, and it's the property managers and it's the real estate agents, and it's the local market that drives all of that. And so what was really exciting when we got together was, we said, hey, and he said, I have a few agents that are interested. And we said, great. It's really hard to aggregate 1.5 million of them, but it's easier if we can start to get some use cases and get some stuff that's on the ground, and then we can move up, because then the brokerages then can now have a way to offset some of that transactional volume decline. Because if I'm a broker, I'm sitting there and going, the market's not falling off the cliff. And in many markets, the markets are still strong. In most markets, the market's still strong. But I don't want to make less money this year. So how do I sort of augment that transaction decline? And transaction decline equals revenue decline. And so nobody wants to make less than they did last year. So this is just an alternative way for them to do that, because you have to do something different, because you have to get more listings in order to get more closings, right? The equation's pretty simple. And so, Emmanuel and team, we basically said, here's an untapped market for you. You've proven yourselves in other markets and other channels. Let's create something that's not there, and we'll be the market leader. So, as the old CEO of DocuSign used to say, create a category, you're automatically the category leader. We like that. So, there was really no one else playing in the space, and that's either a good or bad thing, right? Either it's a good thing because you're first to market, or it's a bad thing as there isn't a market. I've just been in the business long enough to know I could make a few phone calls. We can talk to the executives at some of the major franchises, and we made a few phone calls and they go, oh, that's a really cool idea. I don't know why anyone ever thought about that. So, this platform is enabled, the channel's enabled, and we're going to continue to be the market leader. I promise you the others will follow, especially if they start to see some success. But right now we're blazing a trail, and the good part about it is when you enter a new market, and the great thing about working with the team is they're all ears, and they take the feedback from Jessica and others and say, how do we create this for you? We are coming to you with a very agnostic platform that could work in 10 different ways. What is the best way that we can structure the relationship together, the mutual incentivization together, and you help us build what this becomes. And we'll look back 10 years from now and it's some incarnation of what it is today. But because when you are first to market and you're flexible, you can change a whole bunch of different things. So that's what's, I think, really exciting, is that we're introducing a new concept. So there's lots of learnings on both sides. Jessica's a great example of like, of helping do that. And then, Emmanuel and team will be flexible on how the solution works, and it'll work different in different markets, and all those other things are nice, but because the platform's so agnostic, it can, it can work where it needs to work. So I'm excited. And I know there hasn't been one person that I talked to in the network across the big franchises that haven't say, oh, that's interesting. Tell me more. Right. And that's a good place to be.
Yeah, and as you're saying that, I'm wondering how you think that differs, building a platform that's designed for agents and realtors compared to if you're building a business that's created for these public institutions, REITs, or property managers. What's your opinion on that?
Yeah, well, those, I mean, if you have to think, the way that those businesses are built on the institutional side, they have to be built for scale, because you can't write a $500,000 or $1 million check as an institution. Like, you have to buy 100 properties at a time in order for the underwriting to make sense, in order for all that to make sense. And then your platform has to be able to report back to the investors, because you're not reporting to Jessica, right? And you're not reporting to Sam, who's Jessica, like that's, so your reporting mechanisms are much different. You're reporting to a pension fund somewhere, right, as your return. So just structurally, the reporting requirements are different. The way that the interaction happens, the size and magnitude are different. The number of zeros, those things, and it's less when and I've worked in, big mortgage pools, or like when you're working at that type of scale, and the requirements to get it right are much different. Like, Jessica has to get it right 100% of the time, because it's Jessica's face on the park bench, right? Yep. Or Rotary Call, right? And like, name institution, they got to get it right the majority of the time, right? There's some headline risk, but like, if the transaction goes wrong, they're like, it's 1 out of 5,000, it's going to go wrong, right? Or 5 out of 5,000, or whatever number they associated with not getting it right. At Jessica's level, you have to get it right every single time, or else there's this reputational risk of the next one. And so I think that's really where Jetstream, when you're focusing on this channel, the ability, the requirement to get it right and to be able to pick up the phone 24/7 and to do all those things are just very important in enabling this channel, because the outcomes are different, and the margin for error is much smaller. Sorry, Emmanuel, but you got to get it right every time.
100%.
And to pivot on that, I mean, that's success. How do we do that? Because I don't have 10 people sitting in a room answering phones. We have subbed out the whole online bit so we can focus on our on-site property management and delivering exquisite hospitality, because that is a component to this. This is where hospitality and real estate meet. So by taking those online components completely off of my plate, I can focus on doing exactly that: portfolio building, keeping both the guest happy and the owner happy. And I'm going to plug Jetstream for a minute here. I know we're here to plug Jetstream, but I have been self-employed for over a decade. I can tell you with all sincerity, I never in a million years thought I would see myself working for or with somebody in the capacity that I do now. And in terms of this being a relationship business, I love everybody at Jetstream. If we have a problem in the middle of the night, the guest-facing team, they are full of top-notch professionals who are kind, keep their cool, understand what customer service is, and they make really good decisions. So I'm never apologizing for what's happening on the back end of my office. And I just want to say I mean that with all sincerity. I would not be here putting my name behind it if I didn't really, really believe in it. And I think it's such an amazing opportunity for other realtors, which was why I think 2 years ago when I sent Emmanuel the email that said, would you work with people like me? I could see the opportunity for agents to climb the ladder, and it's a big blessing. So thank you, Emmanuel. It has changed everything for us.
Wow, I did not ask for this. Thank you, Jessica.
That wasn't part of the script, but
That wasn't part of the script.
but I'm sure. Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Shawn, and to Jessica for those comments. I'm sure Emmanuel will massively.
I'm blushing. This red in my face.
Look at me. Yeah, we're going to quickly come to a case study that Emmanuel's got for Jetstream, but just a reminder to everyone tuning in today as well that our panel are here. Please do pop your questions in the chat if there's anything interesting that you want to tail on in the chat for them to answer before the end of today's session. Emmanuel, that's quite a little introduction there from Jessica and hearing about the team. I'm wondering how you think a short-term rental management business can actually grow and be profitable, but without little workload at the same time. We've heard a little bit about scaling, but how does that become a reality?
Yeah, well, as Jessica was saying, Jetstream takes away the entire technology, which is a lot of work, by the way, managing the technology. So, and not only managing, but keep on building it to really suit our collective needs, us and our partners' needs. And then the 24/7 reservation support. We answer all inquiries pre-arrival, during stay. We review every single guest. Every review that a guest leaves on every channel, our agents respond. Thank you so much. We're so glad you enjoyed your stay. So all of that revenue management, pricing, coordinating with the cleaners in terms of letting them know where and when to be and so on. That's all of our team and our tech. So that's offloaded from the broker. Now is required to grow portfolio, really make sure the on-site boots on the ground get done in the way they're supposed to. So it's really handling exceptions at this point. So I have, and there's, so in terms of how much money we're talking about, the average short-term rental property management fee is in the order of 20 to 25% for the manager plus channel fee. So we'll just focus on the 20 to 25. Depends on the market you're in. Sometimes it's even more than this. So let's take 2025. We essentially, the brokers and Jetstream or partners in Jetstream, we end up, I won't get into specific numbers here, but it's a mutually beneficial relationship within that 20 to 25%, right? So I have one of our early customers who started from scratch. So again, realtor, and he's growing his business purely from transaction flow growth. He's not actually aggressively trying to grow his business. It's just he makes friends with somebody buying a house or they like him, and then he kind of captures that lead to that owner and puts them in his portfolio. So year one, we went from zero. I think we started in April. That was last year. 0 to maybe 4 properties year one. And by the time all the split and so on was done, this realtor made $30,000 extra income year one. Year two, now his portfolio has grown, and this is this year, 2022, and he's going to make about $60,000 extra income. And year three, there's no question he's probably going to make $80,000 to $90,000 extra income. And this is on top of his transaction. And he says to me 2 things. 1, can I invest in Jetstream? And 2, most days I do absolutely nothing. The money just shows up in the bank. It's like that's the truth of what's happening. So there's done well in partnership. It's just a perfect synergistic relationship. There's money to be made on both sides, and there's owners to keep happy, and there's guests to deliver exquisite hospitality for.
Thank you very much, Emmanuel. And turning back to Jessica as well. So in the build up in my research for this webinar as well, I was watching a video that you on your YouTube channel, and it was talking about how you're looking to level the playing field, and also talking about how channel distribution tech is to rental agents what multiple listing services are to sales agents as well. And I'm wondering what you think, based on what Emmanuel said, how you can manage a profitable rental business with little workload as well, along the same lines of that last question.
So I think a big component of that is also reduced upfront costs to get started. So when I was here 10 years ago, everything we heard in our association was direct book, direct book, direct book. And the concept of being able to start our business by distributing onto existing channels and then seeking repeat direct bookings was a total game changer. So let's first start with reduced upfront costs, totally level the playing field, and allow somebody to get started pretty much right away. In terms of how much work you do after that, to some degree, that depends on how much money you want to make. We have agents that just want to be in listing distribution and they do not consider themselves property managers, and they might partner with a housekeeping company or a property manager and tailspin that way. I happen to own half a cleaning company, and my amazing business partner, Melissa Wheeler, now owns half a real estate brokerage. So that is another way to get started. She does our day-to-day operation. There's a lot of flexibility for each agent, and that's the big component. Each person can come in and determine how much of that workload they want to do to keep more revenue. And as they perhaps grow up and want more time back, you can scale back. So there's a huge amount of flexibility there.
Excellent. And you know, as well with Jetstream, it's about Emmanuel, I think you offer this white labeled as a service management platform. Jessica, I know you wanted to expand on that. You know, what does finding a channel distribution company that white labels, how does that actually build profit?
So the white labeling means that my listings are going out in my name. So the same way that MLS distributes my listings in my name and my brokerage's name, Jetstream does exactly the same thing. Other channel distribution solutions that we shopped typically did not necessarily do that, or they were very limited in their functionality and syndication. So this was the first one where we could cover a wide swath of the OTAs, have our name, our brand, and know that it was being accurately represented. To date, we've never had a double booking. I won't even tell you how many I experienced in the 8 years prior working in a rental office. I mean, we've had people show up from other countries and they can't access a house. I've never had it happen. So those are the types of things that really keep us flowing, keep us good at what we do. And that white labeling is a game changer for the whole thing, because I don't feel like I need to build it in the house. I feel like I need to grow and manage my portfolio.
Yeah, and the white labeling goes to, I mean, Jessica has a website with her brand on the URL address that she owns. Our agents respond the phone inquiries as Jessica's brand company. When we respond from our central email inbox, we're actually impersonating her email address that she owns. So it's full white label through and through, all the way down to when the guest books, the credit card statement that they will see on their credit card bill, I guess, will be branded as Jessica's company.
And I can tell you, I was prospecting last week, and we were online at the website, and she tested the chat feature to see how quickly they would respond. 15 seconds later. So it was a big win. It was very good. Bravo!
Good. Mystery shopping. I love it. On your own
That's their
site.
own product as well.
Yeah.
Shawn, from your perspective as well, is it still possible to build a highly profitable rental business with little workload if you're outsourcing it, etc.? Oh, sorry, Shawn, I think you're on mute there.
Yep, sorry, I was on mute. I'll dovetail a little bit on what Jessica said. It's the profitability is enabled by the platform. So if you are, but like anything else, it depends on how much you want to be involved and how much scale you want to get. We've been very cautious and calculated on how to make this worth it. And we've gone through lots of calculations, manual versus, sorry for the pun, versus Emmanuel, I'll call it. That's
I like it.
But we know the numbers work and they work at scale. And so, if it's one or two, yes, the platform is there for you. It really works. 5+ is when you start to get really, I think really where you start to turn some of the levers of profitability and scale as we talked about. So the answer is yes. It depends on what you want out of it, and it depends on how deep you want to go into it. But if you want to do one property, it's probably not the place to find a ton of profitability. And some people like the lifestyle business of doing that. It's a additional offer that they'll have. But I think this is for people that want to give it a go and, make a business out of it. And in markets like the last 2, 3, 5, 10 years, it was easy to make money as a real estate agent. And you can just follow the number of real estate agents. That's the easiest trend to follow home transactions is when that's going up, that's, people will go and get their license just to sell their own home, right? Or sell their others. So, when you have these markets where there's a slight correction and those type of things, if you want to stay in the business, if you want to do this, you have to find alternative ways to make money. And this is, I think, the easiest way to do it, because you're doing what you did before. You're just enabling, like Emmanuel said, a recurring amount, which lots of the franchises are trying to figure out. And when you're with some of those big brands, and whether it's the red sign or the green sign or the yellow sign, those executives are trying to figure out how to not lose a bunch of agents in a perceived downturn, right? And so they're looking for alternative ways to continue to get in front of their customers. They spend a lot of money on their .coms and their Super Bowl commercials and all these other things to get people in the front door. And this is a way. You already have someone here, and this is the only thing that I've seen that really is a recurring revenue stream for agents after the close, right? You may be able to get a small referral from your California closets guy, but this is a real revenue, source afterwards for both, not only the real estate side of it, but also your consumer and your customer. And they will, I promise you, we all know the stat, 90% of buyers say they'll use their agent again and 10% do. And why is that? Just because, as Emmanuel said, you have this time frame of 6 to 8 years. Nobody, they throw away the calendar or the fridge magnet that most people send, or the steak knives, they forget about who got that there, or they drank the bottle of wine. Like, this is a real way to stay in front of your, clients during that time. And if you're sending them a check every month, I promise you they're going to come back to you.
Excellent. Thank you, Shawn. Sorry, Emmanuel, did you want to come in there?
No, I just agreed. Nothing speaks love like a check in the mail every month. Not even in the mail, it's right in your bank account.
Yes.
Automation, not in the mail, yes.
Not in the mail, no.
Continuing on that theme though that Shawn's mentioned about recurring revenue streams, and it's already been mentioned a couple of times as well. Jessica, I suppose that you may have used it when you were starting at your cleaning business, but how does managing short-term listings create opportunities, whether it be for growth, for revenue in property management?
So there's a lot of moving components to that type of property management. You've got actual restoration, the booking, the cleaning, the laundry, the amenities are all pieces that you can get involved in and take a bit of. And so it really boils down to how much of it you want to do or how passive you want it to be. Again, there are great agents that just do listing distribution and they leave the cleaning to their cleaning partner, and that's it. I myself am a little more hands-on. We have a more inclusive model. We really feel that the magic happens when the hospitality is on point. I know I keep saying that, but there is nothing more disappointing than finally getting away on vacation and walking into a dirty unit, and that'll kill the whole thing. So I hope that answered the question. It really it depends on what you want to do, but we really love the component of seeing that our guest has a good time and that they want to come back. That's what we feel like our main job is. When we deliver them a house, we want them to feel like they got the best of Cape Cod and it's a little slice of home.
Jessica, are you becoming an expert in short-term rental on Cape Cod, or a voice of authority through all of this?
I mean, there's a lot of us manage vacation rentals. I like to think so. I like to think so. I work with a lot of agents. I have sort of an open door policy. So for example, buyer's agents, when they're in a house and somebody says to them, "What can I rent this for?" They don't know. They have no clue. And even if they have a rental department at their brokerage, most of them will tell me that the communication between their rental department and their sales department is a little bit fractured. There's not necessarily anybody to go to who's going to produce a revenue chart for you, because They might not get much out of it. It might not be worth the time. They don't have the tools to do that quickly. So for myself, I want them to call me. I will send you that report unbranded, pass it off to them. And then after that, when you close on your deal, come back to me and let's have a conversation about how we can turn these numbers into reality. So I do believe that, I know that nobody can rent better than Emmanuel. So I know that we have really great occupancy. And so it's not difficult for me to get those revenue charts out because I know we can meet those numbers. And I know that without my assistance, a lot of people cannot.
Well, yeah, on that point, Jessica, I mean, I just plugging ourselves a little bit here, but most small operators, especially in highly seasonal destinations like Cape Cod, you were telling me, because I actually visited Cape Cod last year, which was awesome, that most small operators shut down in the low season because there's just not enough booking volume for a small operator to keep staff and all the fixed costs. But by going with an outsourced variable cost solution like us, we kept the lights on of your business, so to speak, through last winter. And then we just distributed to different types of channels with better long stay discounts. I think we were able to book your units most months, like for month-long stays or more. I think some of them were 2-month stays, right? If my memory serves me well, which is a big plus.
We had a great season. Yes, a lot of people on the Cape will think, oh, my shoulder season, I'm going to take these 3-day bookings. And I know last year, 1 out of 5 stays on Airbnb was 30 days or more. And at 31 days in my state, you don't pay that considerable amount of sales tax. So we were getting these amazing stays for October, November, December. I think the most vacancy we had were a few weeks in February, and the owners come in to prep their houses during that time.
Yeah. So that's a plus because the owners love that. Yeah.
And so do the houses. The houses are happy occupied. I just want to be clear that houses are not happy when they're closed down and you have the pipes and they get cold and the doors don't close the same way. Your house is happy when it's occupied and getting cleaned weekly.
Thank you all for that discussion. We've got a couple of questions coming in. So I just in the remaining minutes we've got, I want to make sure we got time to honor people who are tuning in today. So firstly, we've got a question from a Yusuf Iraqi, and it says, after talking to a few realtors about VR, it seems that one of the concerns they're voicing is the risk to lose their clients, as in owners or investors, over dragging them to an activity that may endanger their assets. Is this a legit sentiment, and can you share how Jetstream addresses it? So Emmanuel, would that be your question to answer?
I can answer how we address it. It's not a feeling that I've heard before from agents or realtors I speak to. But one thing so we're partnered with a software company called AutoHost, and they do guest screening. So every single guest that books through our multi-channel distribution, they go through an online verification process. It's a link they get on their cell phone. They complete the verification. They take a photo of themselves, photo of their driver's license. It's kind of the old, check into the hotel and give your driver's license and your credit card, but it's all done virtually pre-arrival. And then once the guest passes screening, and if they don't, our agents get involved, but if they pass screening, then there's an automatic 1.3 million US of damage protection and host liability protection put behind that guest because they've passed screening. So we're strong on the asset protection and guest verification pre-arrival. Jessica, are you hearing that from owners?
I would think that, no, not really, because they would never make my desk. The people who are coming toward me are really looking to monetize their assets. It's not, my first broker told me way back when, you're never going to twist somebody's arm into a $400,000 transaction. Let's talk about sales, but it's sort of like that. If somebody's not comfortable with it, they're just not the right client for you. I am very confident in our pre-screening. Part of that AutoHost process is also filling out the lease documents that were provided by my realtor association. So I feel like I've covered my bases in all of the important ways. And it is, I would say, at least in the state of Massachusetts, considerably less risky for the asset owner than long-term rentals, which start at 89 days. So indeed, in this state, that tends to be the advice that an asset owner would get, is that due to tenancy laws and the way it all works, short-term rentals is actually less risky than long-term rentals.
And as well, we got a question from Piers Brown here. Does Jetstream's product cover the single family home market as well?
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah, that's an educated question because yes, Jetstream got its start many years ago. So for all the listeners, Jetstream's actually a self-funded company. We don't have lots of VC capital, and we're not operating on the thin edge of growth or fail. We're a healthy, profitable business. So that's a good thing. But we got our start serving the hotel resort vertical back in 2016, 2015. Really, we cracked a few nuts that were new at the time in terms of multi-unit distribution, so room type, hotel type distribution. But that's actually complex to do, very complex. It's actually simpler to do single home distribution. So since then, we support many single homes. All the properties we work with Jessica are all single family homes. So we really go the gamut from single family homes, apartments, condos, and even some partners are straight hotel, but not many partners that way.
Excellent. And finally, one more question we've got from an anonymous attendee this time, but it says, how do you handle boots on the ground housekeeping, maintenance and inspecting? There's been no discussion about this so far. So yeah, here's the moment.
Yeah, great question. So what we do is we partner with best in class local partners. It's this model of we partner with really good local people. And so let's talk about cleaning, I guess. It depends on the partnership. Jessica is unique as she came with her own cleaning company. So that's great. That's the easiest situation, and a great cleaning company as well. One of our other partners, we usually just try to partner with professional cleaning companies. So we got this other partner I told you with the numbers I shared earlier. We're partnered with an outsourced, fairly decent sized cleaning company, and they are connected to our tech and they know what to do, when to do it. So that's the cleaning side. Usually the maintenance company also handles coordination with maintenance because it's the cleaners who notice a maintenance issue. So they act as our liaison to the maintenance personnel, all using the same software tools that we're talking about here for that. So always in partnership with best in class local partners. And the size of that partner will vary based on really the size of the partnership with the local broker.
Thank you, Emmanuel. Well, a big thank you to all of our contributors today. I mean, we had lots more questions that we had planned, but as ever in an hour, it's a lot to fit in. So big thank you again to Emmanuel, to Jessica and to Shawn. And of course, a big thank you as well to Jetstream for sponsoring this webinar. I've got a couple of slides just to run through quickly before we finish up today. So 3 weeks ago, we held our second Urban Living Festival in London, which welcomed urban innovators and investors from a whole range of different asset classes that we've discussed today. On the 15th of September, we're holding the next instalment of our urban living offering with an in-person insight session exploring the work and office debate. So you can sign up now in the chat, and you can also check out our highlights show reel from Urban Living Festival a few weeks ago. They're both in the chat for you. We're now taking a short summer break from webinars, but don't fear, as we'll be back in September. You can see the full list of topics there that we'll be discussing from our next Rockstars webinars, Rockstars series on the screen, including one about the price is REIT. So I would certainly recommend that, everyone tuning in also signs up for that one. You can make an early start now by looking over those. For sponsorship opportunities, please do contact my colleague Katie. We're going to keep the session open for just another 2 minutes in case you want to jot down any of the details, and there's been plenty of them in today's chat. Also to be able to connect with our speakers from today. Do contact us via our various channels. A big thank you once again to our sponsor Jetstream for today's webinar. A big thank you to them, to our speakers, and of course a big thank you to everyone for tuning in today. And we'll see you all again very soon. Thank you very much, everyone.